comes into 2023 with a lot of questions. It's going to be his last spring game, spring practices, and spring. It's West Virginia University. We asked that, along with 5 burning questions going into spring on this episode of Mountaineer Paul Talks Football.
This is for Cameron.
What is up, guys, and welcome in. Welcome back, guys. I went on vacation for a week. Apologies, but I'm back. We're here to do this. We're here to talk about some spring football. Guys, it's going to be an exciting time to subscribe to Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. Spring practice starts this month, at the end of the month. I think it's the 21st or the 22nd. And then that only leaves a month until the spring game, guys. So I thought, as we're getting closer, content is scarce right now. Let's do some burning questions heading into spring ball. Of course, all eyes will be on Coach Brown for this spring and beyond. We're going to ask a couple of questions and get to Coach Brown in the middle of this thing. So let's start with the first question. And this is a position group I feel like is probably going to be right outside of quarterback as far as level of interest goes. We're talking about wide receiver. Who steps up at receiver? Well, that option may not even be on campus yet, but we do have some guys that are on campus, starting with Devin Carter, the NC State transfer, very experienced player, a guy who's a high point, go up and get him kind of guy. Think Kevin White a little bit, mixed with some Bryce Ford Wheaton. That's what you got. By no means on film is he a burner, but he certainly can separate, which is really nice. I think he'll be a great addition. I don't think, now, I could be completely proven wrong. And I mean, no disrespect to Devin Carter, but I don't think he's the level of good to where like a Stephen Bailey or a Tavon Austin or somebody like that where he can just be a true number one. Maybe he could be a number one with another really close number two. I feel like Caden Prather and him, very similar players, but I'm not expecting him to catch more than 40 or 50 balls. We need somebody that's going to explode for us. Unfortunately, the first few waves of the transfer portal receiver didn't go our way outside of Carter, and I've seen player after player drop off the board. I've been in contact with at least 6 or 7 of these guys, and West Virginia has been in their top 3, so in some cases top 2, and we just haven't been able to land one of the top guys in the portal yet. I do think Neal Brown and company, several offers are out to receivers, but if, let's say, they don't land a big prospect, let's say they add another guy equal to or lesser value of the kid from NC State, Devin Carter, you have to start looking from within, right? So who is it on this team that could possibly be a standout wide receiver? Well, Cortez Braham is the first name that comes to mind for me. Long, lanky, he's got great speed. Go watch his film in community college. He was really good junior college player. I think he has the ability and very possibly could be the best receiver on this team that nobody knows about. Jeremiah Aaron is your typical slot player. He's very shifty in and out of there. He's the kind of guy you're going to get motions and sweeps, and he's going to be in that slot. Probably battling that out with Preston Fox. It's in Malsevich. And, of course, last but not least, Rodney Gallagher. That's right, Rodney Gallagher. I think he's the wild card here. How quick can he acclimate? How quick can he get used to running routes at the college level? Of course, he played the majority of his career at the quarterback spot in high school. I think Rodney Gallagher has a chance to come in and be pretty good right away. I wouldn't be surprised if he caught anywhere from 15 to 30 balls in his freshman year, and he could go beyond that, depending on how well he adjusts. He's got that kind of ability. Every program in the country wanted him. Literally every program. He could have went anywhere. If he wanted to go to Oregon, he could have been there. If he wanted to go to Bama, he could have been there. He chose us because it's close to home, and he likes the family feel we have. So those are just a couple short names on the short list, guys. So there are others, but those are the ones we're paying attention to as of right now. Number 2 question. Let's get that thing put up on the board. So in line with the first question about the receiver, let's get to tight ends. Yes, Traylon Davis played better towards the end of last year, We don't really know what we have in Victor Wickstrom, the kid from Sweden, who is claimed to fame as of right now as a Mountaineer, is winning Scout Offensive Player of the Week during the Virginia Tech week game. So really like to see what he has to offer. He's this big kid, 6'3", 225 pounds. I'd be remiss if I didn't throw in Kuz's guy, Will Dixon. He's really high on him. He's a kid that reclassed in the 2022 class last year. He's kind of a wild card in this. Obviously, Cole Taylor is the shining jewel of, in my opinion, of our transfer portal gets so far. I really like what he is on tape. He is a running tight end. He's somebody that can really run routes. For somebody that's 6'7", 250 pounds, he can move. He had a 41-yard touchdown reception against Mississippi State as a member of the LSU Tigers, and he outran a lot of people to score that touchdown. Unfortunately for him, here's what people say about Taylor is if he's so good, why was he at LSU for 3 years and had basically no stats? And the reason for that is really, really simple, and that is he had all Americans in and behind him at every level of the tight end group. Mason Taylor is one of America's best tight ends coming back here this year. You will hear his name. He is probably one of the best players on the LSU roster right now. Cole Taylor, being a smart player that he is, realizes that he's a good player, but sometimes you're not as good as a Tony Gonzalez, right? This happens all the time. You see it in the NFL, you see it everywhere, where there's really good players. Let's say there's two good players in the same room. One just happens to be better. Doesn't discount the other one, doesn't mean the other one can't be pretty good. Let's see what Cole Taylor does as a tight end for the Mountaineers. I think he's going to be the best tight end we've had since Siobhan Wesco, who was drafted by the Jets in that 2019 draft. And last but not least, my favorite prospect at tight end, who I think possibly could be situationally here, is C.J. Donaldson. Guys, go check out C.J. Donaldson as a receiver at high school at Goldberg Prep if you ever get a chance. He outran defenses. He outran quarterbacks. He diced up 4- and 5-star players on a weekly basis. We are so lucky to have somebody like C.J. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface of what he can become because of that injury. But he's a receiving threat. He may be the best receiver on our team. I'm not kidding. He has the potential to be that. I know I'm getting a little overly excited here, but if you go watch his tape from high school and project him as a receiver or a tight end, it projects. He just happens to be really good with the ball in his hands, and oh, by the way, he's 6'2", 250 pounds. So Neal Brown put the ball in his hands on more occasion, which is what running backs are. That's just one that may or may not come to fruition. It's something, we've got such a deep running back room. Why not get more players, your better players, on the field at the same time? It's an idea. You saw it. Is this the last spring game for Neal Brown? It's a question a lot of us Mountaineer fans have. I'd like to know what you think. Drop a comment below, guys, and let me know. Is this going to be Neal Brown's last spring game as head coach of the West Virginia Mountaineers? Or is there by some chance a way for him to pull this thing out, win 7 or 8 games, and coach again in 2024? Really like to hear from you guys on that. And also, I'm on the road to 1,000, guys. We're almost to 800. If you're not subscribed to Mountaineer Paul Talk Football, please hit that subscribe button, guys. It's been a really slow off season, but we're crawling towards thousands nonetheless. And last but not least, please, if all can't do anything else, please like the video, guys. It goes a long way towards helping the algorithm push the video out to the masses. More West Virginia fans like yourself. Really appreciate that. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure on Neal Brown to win and win right away. Obviously, this is something that's undecided right now. Just don't know a lot about the roster yet. Don't know who's going to start a quarterback. Don't know how good the quarterbacks are. We've seen flashes of both, but really don't have a great idea how they behave over a 12-game season. Obviously, we're loaded at running back and offensive line. Doesn't win football games week in and week out. And then we have a defense that's turning some talent, adding some talent to the portal. But we don't know how good it is either. We don't know anything until we actually play the games with this team, which is probably one of the more frustrating aspects of it. But I think we'll have a good idea probably after Pitt how good this team is. Penn State can go either way in week 1. They're breaking in a new quarterback in Allar, who is one of the better quarterbacks in Penn State history as far as recruiting goes. They're loaded coming back. Some people projected possibly to be a top 15. So we could get scorched in week 1 and still be a pretty good football team. But I think we'll know after Pitt for sure whether or not this is going to be a team that's going to win a few games. I certainly think this next question is going to play a huge factor into what Neal Brown does and how Neal Brown's hopes for returning for another year with the Mountaineers. Put the question on the board. Who starts the spring game at quarterback? I'm going to give you who's going to start the spring game quarterback, who I think should start the spring game quarterback. I'm going to throw a wild card in there as well. Just for fun. So, people I've talked to say that Nico Marchiol is the guy, that he's been promised the position. I've saw text messages, I've seen them with my own 2 eyes, that say Nico has been promised this job. Now, is that subject to change? Sure it is. But I do know that he was promised the job in order to stay in Morgantown. So when you think of it like that, I don't even know if Garrett Green's going to get much of a chance, but certainly injury can make that happen. He could really just outplay Nico in spring practice, and then you know what you got. I think spring game-wise, it's probably going to be more 50-50. They're both going to play just as much as the other one does. And rather than 3 quarterbacks take split reps this year, I really think they're going to get the bulk of them. But I do think they're going to get John Boyle his reps too, because we've got to prepare a 3rd guy. It's one of the more scary things I think going into the season for me is only having 2 quarterbacks and Garrett Green being as small as he is, and he's already been injured before. It's not a good proposition, in my opinion, to have 2 quarterbacks that are inexperienced and another 3rd one that's inexperienced, which leads me to what I think could happen. Last year, we saw Neal Brown say, hey, let's let these guys get through spring practice and we'll see what we got on the other end. In transfers JT Daniels. Last year, these kids, neither one of these guys were good enough to take the starting quarterback job. Now, we've seen in the past his judgment in this area is not necessarily the best, whether that be with Kendall or Nagy or JT Daniels. So we have to keep in mind he's judging this competition yet again, and anything is possible. Could the quarterbacks look bad enough to where Neal Brown actually goes ahead and bites the bullet again and has another transfer come in for this season? Has anybody even thought of that? Because I think it's totally possible. Don't want to see it. Would love to see Nico take the reins and be a great quarterback for us like I think he can be. But realistically speaking, we do need a 3rd guy with experience. I'll be interested to see. Keep an eye on that, guys. See if we bring somebody in out of the blue, maybe that you're not expecting. Somebody with maybe a 5th-year senior that has some experience that can maybe play in a tight spot. All right, guys, we're going to put one more question on the board. One of my favorite questions. Which freshman is going to be ready early? Really interesting question, right? There are a few, obviously, that you can point to. You can point to guys like Josiah Trotter, Ben Cutter, James Hurd Jr., Rodney Gallagher, Jaheim White, Johnny Williams. This is a tough question. I think that we could have multiple freshmen actually play this year. But in my opinion, I made this prediction on my last show, which was the bold predictions that I'll probably be wrong about come next year. But I truly do believe that James Hurd is a next-level pass rusher, and that we haven't had a guy with this skill set since Bruce Irvin was in town, as far as just multiple moves, can really get off the line quick, great hand placement, multiple moves. Like I said, not just a speed guy, he's not just a power guy, he's also a finesse guy. He can really do it all. We really stole him in this class, who is a 4-star pass rusher in James Hurd Jr. And like I said, I predicted on a couple different occasions. I think he's going to have 6 or 7 sacks as a freshman this year and possibly flirt with that All-American status. That's how high I am on James Hurd Jr. There's one other freshman I think that can come in and contribute right away. And I know it sounds insane with the depth this running back room has, but I think he's got the talent, the ability, and also the versatility to come in right away and be a playmaker. That's Jaheim White. Go put on tape of Jaheim White, and you see a kid that is the best receivers in this recruiting class. He is so good catching the ball in the backfield. It's crazy. Obviously, he's a great running back with vision, and he's quite a large changeup to the guys we have currently in the backfield, number 1 and number 2, and C.J. Donaldson and Jalen Anderson. I think it's possible for him to crack that top 3. Keep an eye on Jaheim White. Keep an eye on James Hurd Jr. 2 guys to watch as the spring progresses. Let's see how they do. Hope you enjoyed these burning questions we have for spring, guys. Try to get some more content up on this channel. Hopefully some news breaks, something. Love to see some transfers come in. I've been in contact with a couple of them. I'm just the word right now. But you never know. This could break at any time. This has been another edition of Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. This episode is over. Bye now.
This is for Cameron. Tim.